Hey everybody, this is True Disciple bringing you another StarCraft 2 commentary. Today I am bringing you Game 3 of a best of 3 from the MLG Dallas that was just played this past weekend. This is a matchup between none other than ReSpOnSe and Nadagast. Nadagast being the 9th seeded player in this tournament and ReSpOnSe being the 24th seeded player in this tournament. Once again, I selected these games. Now that we are to Game 3, I can say that I don't know who is going to win, but I did know that there were 3 games played, which is one of the reasons why I picked it, so I knew it wasn't a clean sweep. I don't like clean sweeps, although I will cast them if they are extremely good. And there is a lot of back and forth. But I picked this because of, obviously, the caliber of the players. I know both these players. I know that they're extremely good. And I know that it was a best of 3 that went to Game 3. And when I searched it on YouTube, I could not find it anywhere else. So I don't think this game has been cast by any other caster as of yet. And if it has, well, it hasn't been cast by me yet, so why not? So that being said, let's get right into this Game 3 on Steeps of War. So here we see that ReSpOnSe just going down for a normal build. It looks like he's going to throw down his gateway at 13, which is very, very typical. A lot of times in the beta, and even right after the beta, we'd see a 12 gate. But now players have learned that if they want to get up a good macro and not even stop the probe production for a few seconds, that 13 is the time to put down that gateway. And I have to agree with that. It's very solid. You get the next probe out a lot sooner, and so a lot of those players that are still throwing down their gate at 12, allow yourself that little bit of extra time and throw out that extra probe first and then get your gateway. You will not be delayed by that much. That being said, Nada going for a very standard build for Terran, throwing down his barracks at 12. And we see that this probe is kind of running around, scouting and seeing what's going on. And meanwhile, we see the scouting SCV of Nada is in ReSpOnSe's base, checking out. It's going to start poking at this pylon just to kind of harass ReSpOnSe. And ReSpOnSe very naturally throwing down his Cybernetics core at 18 supply. We see that this first Marine that has come out for Nada is going to hunt down ReSpOnSe's probe and hopefully kill it or get it to leave his base. And ReSpOnSe maybe going to try to juke him a bit here, try to stay in here for some extra information. No, but it looks like he will not be able to, and he is completely walled off. He's not going to be able to escape. This tech lab completely blocked. Oh, look at this. Nada. Oh, very nice. Nada dropped it down, and I'm not sure. I think Nada might have done that on purpose to think that ReSpOnSe was going to let him through, because there was no reason for Nada to drop that right there. So I think that he was trying to get him to not juke back to the left, but come here, commit to trying to come back down the ramp, and then pull the supply depot back up at the last second. And I think that play was extremely nice from Nada, extremely crisp, extremely on the money. So we see that, meanwhile, we see that this poor SCV is being chased around by the Zealot, but of course the Zealot, being slower than the SCV, will never be able to catch it. We see a pylon going down close to the ramp of ReSpOnSe's base, probably to be able to throw down some defending units in case there's an early push coming from Nada. And as I mentioned in the previous game, when you're playing Protoss against Terran, you don't want to wall off, you don't want to drop your units here, you just want to have an army here so you can kind of get a nice concave around the Terran army as it pushes up. And this is a very nice placement of this pylon, as he will be able to warp reinforcing units right at the top of the ramp when needed. And look at this ReSpOnSe going for an early expansion. I like this play. It is the 3rd time he has gone for this early expansion, although he has done a different kind of build each game, which I think is very interesting. A lot of the players try to stick to that same build each game, in ReSpOnSe not trying to stick to the same build, trying to mix it up. Although maybe he is going for the same build, yet we'll see if he goes for a 4 gate. He's definitely not going for that early robo, and he is getting the warp gate on time this time. He's not delaying it and getting the robo first. So meanwhile, we see that we see pretty similar play coming from Nada. He is throwing down his 3rd racks, and he is throwing down his command center at about the same time he did in the previous 2 games, maybe a little bit earlier. A 4th rack's going down as well for Nada, so we see 4 racks here. Let's check the production tab real quick and see what's going on there. Sentry is being built, warp technology is finished, and we see that stim is being researched, so we're definitely going for this heavy bio, which I guess we already knew from the amount of barracks that were out. So with 4 barracks, probably going to go into a 5 racks. We're going to probably see some kind of very early push coming from Nada, which is what I would expect here. So we see that ReSpOnSe has his troops positioned nicely to be able to defend, although this will not be extremely effective against an early push coming from Nada unless he can get some more troops out and get them out fast. So we do see that he is going for that 4-gate build that he went for in the first game, that double, I really, I gotta say I like this build. A lot of people call the 4-gate an all-in build, and it kind of is. It's very hard to recover against a good player from a failed 4-gate. Meanwhile, we see this scout from Nada nicely blocked off, so all that Nada gets to know is that there is indeed an early expansion, and now he loses that Reaper, and he will not get to see anything else. So he does not know about these 4 gates in here, and he does not know that Nada will have an extreme amount of units. And I like this build for 2 reasons, because once again, if your 4-gate fails, you did expand first, so you have the expansion to fall back on. You will be able to tech, you will be able to get back in the game. You're not cornered by that 4-gate. You're not completely trapped in that build. And also at the same time, you will have a lot more units than your opponent will expect. They'll be expecting you to have a lot fewer units than you do. Although here comes Nada with the push, and look at those beautiful force fields. That is exactly what he needed. He's very sentry. Remember what I was talking earlier about the sentry and the zealots? That is exactly the army he needs right now to deal with the army of Nadagast. And as long as those force fields are extremely well placed, as they are, they will be able to chop easily, bit by bit, through the army of Nada, and Nada will not be able to respond to this at all. And look at this, just continuing to chop down these Marauders. Marauders being forced to stem away, that force field just being so extremely powerful. And I think in that case, Nada overextended himself. He pushed in once, lost about a third of his units, and then he pushed in again. And when he saw that there were that many sentries, and look at this warping, and very smartly ReSpOnSe warping in even more sentries to be able to deal with what would be another eventual push coming from Nada. And Nada now deciding that he is just going to wall off with this bunker. He's going to try to get down these rocks and get down his second expansion. So, but I think that Nada, after that first attack, after that first push in, he should have probably pulled back and waited for his first ghost. So, and I'm assuming, yes, he already has a Ghost Academy. Mobius Reactor is being researched for that extra energy. First ghost is out on the field. Very smartly played by him. I think he should have pulled back and waited, though, for this first ghost before pushing in, as he could drop that EMP on at least a good, at least a few of these sentries. Although I got to say about ReSpOnSe, look at the positioning of his units. Look at the concave he has made, and look how he has spread them out. ReSpOnSe is expecting the EMP, he's expecting the ghosts from Nada at this point, and so he's smartly spread out his units, and in particular spread out his sentries. So first off, the zealots that have 50 shields won't have basically a third of their health reduced by an EMP, well, at least not all of them at once. And of course the sentries will be able to keep their energy and be able to force field. So even if, let's say you were to drop, let's see where they're the most clustered here, he was to drop a EMP over here, he would probably only hit these units, and so he would lose shields on two of his zealots, and he would lose energy and shields on 3 of his sentries. Meanwhile, all of these sentries would still be able to force field several times. Here we see this ghost coming up, and there he goes, dropping down an EMP, chewing up. Look at this, look at these units, and see what we got here. Let's see. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 units got their energy and shields chewed up. 3 of his sentries lost their energy, but because of the positioning of his units, he's able to keep the energy on the rest of them. And by the time these rebuild up, by the time the ghost rebuilds up 75 energy to be able to drop another EMP, well, guess what? All of these will have 75 energy again, and well, that's one and a half force fields each, as a force field does cost 50 energy. So we see that now ReSpOnSe is trying to tear down these destructible rocks, and he's going to be going for his next as well. Look at this, ReSpOnSe has put up a proxy pylon here, and I wonder if he's going to try to do some drop in the back door here. And here we have another proxy pylon by the Xel'Naga watchtower, but Nada has spotted the first one, and he is taking it out, and now he has spotted the second one, and as he moves out with his expansion. But I mean, this has given ReSpOnSe the information he wants. He's going to lose his pylon now, but think about this: 100 energy to know when your opponent is expanding. And now moving out, he's got this beautiful 3-gate. His Robo Bay is just about finished, and look at this, just heavy zealots with charge and a massive amount of sentries. And just between the walls and the zealots able to smush the enemies, he'll be able to smush them between walls and zealot wall. So just the combination of force fields and zealots tearing through that army. He has now lost almost all of his zealots, but look how many units were lost by Nada. And these sentries are, I mean, They don't do a lot of damage, but they're still powerful enough to clean up the rest. We see that the command center is morphing into Planetary Fortress, and in just a few moments, its armor will go up quite a bit, and it will be able to start dealing with these. Oh, I don't know if it'll be able to kill them all. It is doing splash damage. It is killing quite a few. Oh, and ReSpOnSe is able to take out that expansion very, very nicely. We see the factory flying for Nada over here is scouting, but it is to no avail as there is no possible counter that can come right now. We see a couple of Banshees being built, and hopefully he'll be able to do something with those, but I think he's going to need them on defense. We see that ReSpOnSe is continuing to just clean this up, making up for his blunder in Game 2, and I guess his build from Game 1 is the most successful one, where he went for that 4-gate, and now we see the later game of that build. He didn't clean him up right away, but he was able to go into the tech, although he hasn't bothered to build anything yet. He is getting Protoss ground weapons level 3, and so that, you know, the combination of the upgrades, he attacked when he had 2 upgrade. I mean, that's 20 damage per attack per zealot, just a massive, massive amount of damage. And even these sentries doing 8 damage per weapon speed of 1. So I mean, that's still a very exceptional amount of damage for these small units. So, and Nada forced to GG in the end to this 2-base 4-gate is I guess what I'm going to have to call it, an expansion 4-gate. So I've never seen this tactic before, but I think I'm going to start trying it myself, as it looked like a very solid build, and that explains actually, now that we see how many upgrades he had, these 2 forges really explain why. Oh, and he actually did have 6 gates in the end, but 4 gates at first. But these two extra forges that were researching all of his, you know, look at this, ground armor level 3 as well being researched, and that really explains why he needs this early base, as he wants to get those upgrades. And I think that maybe if we even go back and look back at ReSpOnSe's first game, I probably missed it. I'm pretty sure that he probably got a lot of upgrades in that game as well. And I think that in the end, the combination of the initial 4 gates with those just those gateway units and those upgrades were just able to decimate Nada. And so now I'm just kind of jabbering a bit about the game, talking a bit more, as I like to do at the end of my games a bit, so that people don't know exactly when the game will end by looking at the YouTube length. But I really hope that you enjoyed these games. I sure did enjoy casting them, and so I'll try to get a few more games up from the MLG this weekend, or if anybody sends me any good replays, I'll try to post those as well. I am trying to cast games from the MLG that were not cast by other casters, especially, of course, not the games that were cast live, as I watched most of those games over the course of the weekend. So, but if anybody has a suggestion for any good replay that they saw from the MLG, or any other replay, please just send them my way. Even if it's one of your own replays that is, you know, I'm trying to cast only Diamond and up for the moment, so I prefer not the lower level games at the moment. However, I wouldn't mind casting game if you have a question about your game, where you failed, and you want me to go over it and see if I can throw you some pointers and cast it kind of as a tutorial for those lower level players. I wouldn't mind doing something like that either. So just give me a shout out, send me a private message on YouTube, and I'll definitely answer it, and I'll try to help you out as best I can. So I hope you guys enjoyed these replays, and I'll definitely try to get you some more as soon as possible. See you guys this weekend.